Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast.
Welcome to the Stephen Mansfield Podcast. Great to have you with me. You know, one of the things I love to do in this podcast is to note the small things that seem to be happening on the world stage that could lead to much bigger things. Sometimes I'm right about that. Sometimes those small events don't tend to unfold into larger events. But it's important to look at trends. It's important to look at what potentially could evolve and become a massive determinant of events worldwide. And one of those happened last week. In the Middle East, you may know that a Russian plane was shot down. It was shot down. It was a Russian MiG. It was shot down by Syrian anti-aircraft missiles. And that was tragic enough. Pilots died. There was embarrassment. There were accusations. And the Russians spun out of this by accusing Israel. Now, this is very important for us to pay attention to. You probably know that Russia has been allied with the Assad regime in Syria. They have been propping up that regime. They have been arming that regime. And in, of course, that regime's battle, civil war, conflict against rebels. There have been horrible bombings, the killing of a lot of children. It's been tragic. And Russia has been arming and propping up the regime in Syria. So the fact that Syria accidentally shot down a Russian jet has been blamed on Israel, and here's why. What's possible amongst fighter jets is that one jet uses another to hide behind. It hides its digital signature. So the accusation is that an Israeli jet, in a sense, hid behind or hid in the shadow, the digital shadow of the Russian MiG, and the Syrian air defenses, attempting to shoot down the Israeli plane, in fact shot down the Russian plane. But it was the Israeli plane they were gunning for, and the Israeli plane that had triggered the air defense system. That's the accusation. So now, out of this accusation, which no way of knowing if it's true, the Russians have accused this kind of thing before, made these kinds of accusations before, and the Israelis have definitely done this kind of thing before, where they have used jets to hide their digital signature for air defense purposes. So who knows what actually happened? The result, however, is that the Soviets have sold the Syrians their S-300 missile system, which is an air defense system, very advanced, and it actually overpowers and outmaneuvers. It can actually win against Israeli jets. In other words, it's a very sophisticated system that can bring down Israeli jets. This is a massive escalating of tensions in the region. We've always known that Russia would raise the stakes, that Russia would supercharge things, that they got involved, they would bring greater tensions. And now they've done it, and they've used the downing of this Russian MiG as an opportunity, as an excuse to raise tensions. You have to know that Israel shares a border with Syria, and so it's very possible for tensions and troops and conflicts to erupt. And so now the former Soviets, the Russian military, have sold their S-300 missile system to the Syrians. The Syrians, of course, not at all responsible in the use of weaponry. They're the ones who have been using unbelievable gas attacks against their own people. And so this is a very, very serious step. We know that there are a lot of forces arrayed against Israel. We know that there's an alignment against Israel. Certainly Syria is anti-Israeli. Certainly the Russians are backing them. We know, of course, the Israeli-Arab tensions in much of that world, Israeli-Muslim tensions, Jewish-Muslim tensions, all of those fault lines. We know that they're there. But this is the kind of thing that can evolve into serious violence and quite frankly, into the declaration of war. So Russia has supercharged this already existing tension between Syria and Israel, and we could see some serious repercussions. Always there's a need for the powers to stand down. Always there's the need for the U.S. to intervene. always there is the need for the U.S. to use whatever sway it has with Russia to get them to back off. But Russia is attempting to move into the Middle East. That's very clear. It's building alliances. It's using its weapons systems and its military hardware as sort of the carrot before the horse, trying to power its incursions into the region, trying to win allies, and this is likely to be very successful. So watch this trend. Watch how Israel responds. Watch whether the U.S. uses its influence. I have to tell you that, quite frankly, this current presidential administration is so distracted by matters at home that it's not conducting foreign policy very wisely. So we need to hope that changes, and we need to hope that the U.S. uses its sway to cause tensions to stand down. But none of the actors in this current crisis are particularly responsible partners. And I know I'm including Israel in that, but sometimes they incite these incidents as well. So keep an eye on this. Watch this. Keep an eye on the Middle East. And let me urge you about something broader. I know there are huge issues at stake in the United States right now. I know there are huge issues at stake regarding the Supreme Court and tensions politically and upcoming midterm elections. But events are still unfolding worldwide. Don't be so distracted by Washington and Main Street that you don't pay attention to what's happening worldwide. Forces are shifting. Tectonic changes are happening. We need to be paying attention, and I'm not sure that we are paying attention from Washington as we should be. So that makes each of these crises even more dire. Keep your eye on the ball of the significant world events, and don't be distracted by window dressing and by short-term political issues in the United States.
Stephen Mansfield is a New York Times best-selling author, a popular speaker, and a frequent faith and culture commentator on Fox and CNN. His groundbreaking books on faith and society include The Faith of George W. Bush, The Search for God in Guinness, Mansfield's Book of Manly Men, and Lincoln's Battle with God. Learn more at stephenmansfield.tv.